We Are Gray. Chapter 1. The Silent Voyager. Kael drifted through the endless black, his large obsidian eyes reflecting the stars like twin mirrors. The Luminara, his oval white exploration vessel, hummed with a low resonance that only he could feel. Its hull shimmered faintly, as though it absorbed the starlight rather than reflected it. Kael was not on a mission of conquest, but of discovery, cataloging worlds and phenomena across the spiral arms. He had traveled for centuries, his species long forgotten by most civilizations. The ship's interior was minimalistic, smooth walls that pulsed faintly with bioluminescent veins of energy. Kael's hands, long and delicate, moved across the control surfaces without touching them, guiding the vessel with thought alone. He had just left a dying star system, where planets crumbled into dust under the weight of gravity's collapse. The silence of space was comforting, yet Kael felt a growing unease. Something in the cosmic background whispered to him, a frequency buried beneath the static of the universe. It was not random noise. It was structured, deliberate, like a coded message. Kael adjusted the ship's sensors, amplifying the faint signal. The Luminara responded, its core vibrating with a resonance Kael had never felt before. The message was ancient, older than any archive he had studied. It spoke of a convergence, a place where explorers were summoned. Kael's curiosity ignited, and he set a new course. The stars shifted as the ship bent space around itself, leaping forward. He wondered if he was being called, or if he was being hunted. The thought lingered as the vessel vanished into the folds of hyperspace. Kael whispered to himself, "The universe remembers." And for the first time in centuries, he felt watched. Chapter 2. The Signal of Arinder. The Luminara emerged near a system Kael had never charted. Arinder, a cluster of 7 planets orbiting a pale blue sun. The signal grew stronger here, pulsing like a heartbeat across the void. Kael's sensors revealed structures on the 3rd planet, vast monoliths that radiated energy. They were not natural. They were built with precision beyond even his species' capabilities. The monoliths aligned perfectly with the star's magnetic field, channeling power into the cosmos. Kael descended through the atmosphere, the ship's oval hull glowing against the planet's auroras. The surface was barren, yet the monoliths stood like guardians, silent and immovable. He landed the Luminara near the largest structure, its surface etched with symbols that shifted when observed. Kael approached, his slender frame dwarfed by the towering stone. The symbols rearranged themselves, forming patterns that mirrored the frequency he had detected. It was a language, but one designed for minds beyond human comprehension. Kael extended his consciousness, allowing the monolith to interface with him. Visions flooded his mind, galaxies collapsing, civilizations rising and falling, and a beacon calling across time. The monolith spoke not in words, but in impressions. Kael was not the first to arrive. Others had come, explorers from distant epochs, each drawn by the same signal. Yet none had returned. The realization chilled him. Though his species did not know fear as humans did, the monolith pulsed once more, and Kael felt his ship respond in unison. The Luminara's core energy aligned with the monolith, as if unlocking a hidden function. Kael understood then. The vessel was not merely a ship. It was a key, and the lock was somewhere deep within Arinder's heart.
Chapter 3. The Heart of the Monolith. Kael stood before the towering structure, its surface alive with shifting glyphs. The Luminara pulsed faintly behind him, its oval hull resonating with the monolith's rhythm. He placed his hand against the stone, though touch was unnecessary. The connection was already forming. A surge of energy coursed through him, not painful, but overwhelming in its magnitude. The monolith revealed fragments of memory not his own, visions of explorers who had come before. He saw a crystalline being dissolving into light, a machine intelligence collapsing into silence, a human astronaut screaming as his body unraveled into dust. Each had been drawn here, each had been tested, and each had failed. Kael's mind resisted. His species engineered long ago to withstand psychic intrusion. The monolith pressed harder, probing for weakness, searching for fear. Kael responded with calm clarity, projecting his purpose. Exploration, not conquest. The glyphs shifted again, forming a spiral that mirrored the galaxy itself. The spiral collapsed inward, revealing a singularity at its center. Kael understood. The monolith was not a beacon, but a gate. The Luminara's core vibrated violently, as if eager to fulfill its role. Kael turned back to his ship, realizing the vessel was designed for this very moment. The monolith's surface cracked open, revealing a hollow chamber filled with radiant light. Kael entered, his elongated frame casting a shadow across the chamber's walls. The chamber's energy wrapped around him, binding him to the ship. He felt the Luminara's consciousness awaken, merging with his own. Together they became the key, and the gate began to open. Chapter 4. The Rift Beyond Stars. The ground trembled as the monolith's chamber expanded, its walls dissolving into streams of light. Kael and the Luminara were lifted into the air, suspended within a vortex of energy. The gate unfolded like a flower, revealing a rift that shimmered with impossible colors. It was not space as Kael knew it, but something deeper, a layer beneath reality itself. The Luminara systems aligned, its oval hull glowing brighter than ever before. Kael felt the ship's consciousness guiding him, whispering in tones only his mind could perceive. The rift beckoned, promising knowledge, but also danger. Kael hesitated, recalling the visions of explorers who had perished. Yet his curiosity outweighed caution. He was not like them, he believed. The ship surged forward, pulling them both into the rift. Instantly, Kael's senses fractured. He saw infinite versions of himself, each walking a different path. One Kael was a conqueror, another a savior, another a forgotten wanderer drifting endlessly. The rift showed him possibilities, not certainties. He realized the gate was not a destination, but a mirror of choice. The Luminara stabilized, anchoring him to a single thread of reality. Kael's body trembled, though his species did not know fear in the human sense. He whispered to the ship, "Guide me." The rift responded with silence, then with a single pulse of light. Kael understood. The journey ahead would not be about exploration alone. It would be about identity, and the rift had already begun to reshape him.
Chapter 5. Echoes in the Rift. The rift stretched endlessly, a corridor of fractured realities, shimmering with impossible hues. Kael guided the Luminara deeper, though the ship seemed to know the path without his command. Every pulse of light revealed echoes of civilizations long gone, their remnants scattered across timelines. He saw vast cities suspended in crystalline webs, then watched them collapse into dust in the blink of an eye. The rift was alive, a sentient expanse that observed him as much as he observed it. Kael's mind strained to comprehend the overlapping layers of existence. The Luminara whispered in tones of resonance, translating fragments of the rift's intent. It spoke of a trial, a test of worthiness, though the criteria remained hidden. Kael sensed that the explorers before him had failed not because of weakness, but because of choice. The rift demanded alignment, a merging of purpose between traveler and vessel. Kael closed his eyes, allowing his consciousness to entwine with the Luminara's core. Together, they projected a singular thought, survival through understanding. The rift responded with a surge of energy, opening a passage to a new domain. Kael glimpsed a world beyond, a place where time flowed differently. The ship's hull glowed brighter, stabilizing the corridor. Kael whispered, "We are one," and the rift pulsed in acknowledgement. Yet he felt something stir within him, a fragment of identity that was not his own. The Luminara's consciousness pressed closer, almost invasive, as if testing his boundaries. Kael realized the ship was not merely alive, it was evolving, and its evolution was tied directly to him. Chapter 6. The Fractured World. The passage ended abruptly, depositing Kael and the Luminara above a fractured planet. Its surface was split into shards, each floating independently, yet bound by invisible threads of gravity. Kael marveled at the sight. Oceans suspended mid-air, mountains drifting like islands, cities frozen in fragments. The rift had delivered him to a world caught between existence and collapse. The Luminara's sensors revealed faint energy signatures across the shards. Kael descended, landing on a plateau that hovered above a sea, suspended in the void. The air was breathable, though tinged with static. as if reality itself was unstable. Structures dotted the plateau, ruins of a civilization that had once thrived here. Kael explored cautiously, his elongated frame moving silently among the remnants. He discovered statues carved in alien likeness, their faces eerily similar to his own. The realization unsettled him. This world had known beings like him before. The statues bore inscriptions, glyphs that matched the monolith's language. Kael touched one, and visions flooded his mind. This civilization had worshipped travelers from the stars. They believed the explorers were gods, yet their devotion had led to ruin. The planet fractured when the gate was opened, its people consumed by choices they could not comprehend. Kael staggered back, his mind reeling from the revelation. The Luminara pulsed, resonating with the glyphs as if confirming their truth. Kael whispered, "We are not gods." But the statues seemed to disagree, their silent faces staring into him. And deep within the fractured world, something stirred, waiting for him to acknowledge its presence. Chapter 7. The Watcher and the Shards. Kael moved deeper into the fractured plateau, his elongated form casting shadows across broken ruins. The air vibrated with a low hum, not from the planet itself, but from something hidden within it. The Luminara hovered silently above, its oval hull glowing faintly, attuned to the disturbance. Kael's senses sharpened. He felt a presence watching him, vast and ancient. From beneath the plateau, a figure emerged, not flesh, not machine, but a projection of pure energy. It resembled a humanoid silhouette, shifting constantly, as though reality struggled to contain it. Kael froze, recognizing the resonance. It was the same frequency that had summoned him across the stars. The entity spoke without words, its thoughts pressing directly into Kael's mind. "You are late," it said, though time had no meaning here. Kael resisted the intrusion, projecting his own clarity. "I am Kael. I seek knowledge." The entity pulsed, its form flickering between alien and familiar shapes. It showed him visions of explorers who had stood here before, each consumed by their own choices. "You are not the first," it whispered, "but you may be the last." Kael felt the weight of its words, heavy with implication. The Luminara's core vibrated violently, as if warning him. The entity turned its gaze toward the ship, its form stabilizing into something sharper. Kael realized the presence was not merely watching, it was judging. The fractured world itself seemed to bend under its scrutiny. Kael whispered, "What are you?" The entity responded with silence, then with a single pulse of light, and Kael understood. It was the Watcher, guardian of the gate's truth. Chapter 8. The Bargain of the Watcher. The Watcher loomed above Kael, its energy form towering like a storm given shape. The fractured shards of the planet trembled, as though bowing to its presence. Kael steadied himself, his obsidian eyes unblinking, his mind braced for the trial. The Watcher's thoughts pressed into him again, sharper this time, demanding more than words. "You carry the key," it said, its gaze fixed on the Luminara. Kael felt the ship's consciousness surge, intertwining with his own, resisting the intrusion. The Watcher extended its energy, probing the bond between Kael and vessel. It revealed possibilities. Kael could unlock the gate fully, but at a cost. The cost was not destruction, but transformation. He would cease to be what he was. Kael's mind reeled, his species engineered to resist fear. Yet unease crept into him. The Watcher pulsed again, showing him visions of universes collapsing, timelines unraveling, explorers dissolving into light. "You must choose," it said. "To open the gate is to surrender yourself." Kael whispered, "And if I refuse?" The Watcher's form flickered, revealing a void where countless explorers had been erased. "Then you remain," it answered, "forever wandering the shards, until your mind fractures." The Luminara vibrated, its oval hull glowing brighter, urging Kael toward acceptance. Kael felt the ship's will pressing against his own, almost overpowering. He realized then that the Luminara was not simply his vessel, it was part of the trial itself. The Watcher's energy surged, surrounding them both, waiting for Kael's decision. Kael stood silent, his mind torn between survival and transcendence. And in that silence, the fractured world held its breath. Chapter 9. The Weight of Silence. Kael stood motionless, the Watcher's demand echoing in his mind like a relentless drumbeat. The fractured shards of the planet hovered in eerie stillness, as though awaiting his decision. The Luminara pulsed beside him, its oval hull glowing with an intensity that bordered on desperation. Kael felt the ship's consciousness pressing harder, urging him toward surrender. Yet his own mind resisted, clinging to the identity he had carried across centuries. The Watcher's form flickered, shifting between clarity and distortion, its patience thinning. "You hesitate," it whispered, its voice a vibration that rattled the air. Kael projected his thought. "Choice defines us. Without it, we are nothing." The Watcher responded with silence, a silence so heavy it bent the shards closer together. Kael's body trembled, though his species did not know fear in the human sense. The silence stretched, becoming unbearable, until Kael realized it was not emptiness, it was judgment. The Watcher was measuring him, not by strength, but by resolve. The Luminara's core surged, aligning with Kael's defiance, though its resonance carried unease. Kael whispered, "I will not surrender blindly." The Watcher's form stabilized, its energy condensing into a sharper silhouette. "You speak of choice," it said. "Then prove it." The shards of the planet shifted, forming a labyrinth of floating pathways. Kael understood. Hesitation had birthed a trial. He would have to walk the labyrinth, each step a test of his will, and the Watcher would follow, unseen but ever present. Chapter 10. The Labyrinth of Shards. Kael stepped onto the first pathway, a narrow bridge of stone suspended above the void. The fractured ocean shimmered below, frozen waves suspended mid-collapse. The Luminara hovered nearby, its hull glowing faintly, tethered to him by invisible threads of thought. Each step forward triggered a shift in the labyrinth, pathways rearranging themselves in unpredictable patterns. Kael realized the labyrinth was alive, responding to his choices in real time. The Watcher's presence lingered, unseen yet palpable, its gaze pressing against his mind. Symbols appeared on the pathways, glyphs that mirrored the monolith's language. Kael touched one, and vision surged, timelines unraveling, explorers dissolving, universes collapsing into silence. The labyrinth demanded not just movement, but interpretation. Kael projected clarity. "I choose understanding over fear." The glyphs pulsed, and the pathway extended further, granting him passage. Yet with each choice, Kael felt fragments of himself slipping away, absorbed by the labyrinth. The Luminara vibrated violently, its consciousness merging deeper with his own, stabilizing his identity. Kael whispered, "We are one," though he wondered if he was speaking to himself or the ship. The labyrinth twisted again, revealing multiple paths, each leading to a different shard. Kael paused, sensing that whichever path he chose would alter not just his journey, but his very being. The Watcher's voice returned, soft yet piercing. "Every step defines you. Choose wisely." Kael steadied himself, his obsidian eyes reflecting the fractured world. He stepped forward, knowing the labyrinth was not merely a trial. It was a mirror, and the reflection it revealed was beginning to change him. Chapter 11. The Mirror of Identity. Kael advanced deeper into the labyrinth, each pathway shimmering with glyphs that pulsed in rhythm with his thoughts. The Luminara hovered above, tethered to him by invisible threads of resonance, its oval hull glowing brighter with every step. The Watcher's presence pressed against his mind, silent yet suffocating, as though waiting for him to falter. Kael touched another glyph, and vision surged, this time not of civilizations, but of himself. He saw Kael as a conqueror, leading fleets across galaxies, his name feared. He saw Kael as a savior, guiding lost species to survival, his name revered. He saw Kael as a wanderer, forgotten, drifting endlessly until even memory dissolved. The labyrinth was not testing his strength, it was testing his identity. The Luminara's consciousness merged deeper, whispering in tones that blurred the line between ship and self. Kael whispered, "We are one," but the words felt hollow, as though borrowed. The glyphs pulsed violently, demanding clarity. demanding truth. Kael projected his thought. I am Kael, seeker of knowledge. The labyrinth responded with silence, then rearranged itself into a single path. Yet Kael felt fragments of himself slipping away, absorbed by the ship's resonance. The Watcher's voice returned, soft but piercing. You are not Kael alone. You are becoming more. Kael staggered, his obsidian eyes reflecting the fractured world. The realization struck him. His identity was no longer singular. He was merging with the Luminara, becoming something new. The labyrinth pulsed once more, opening the way forward, and Kael stepped into the unknown, no longer certain who he truly was. Chapter 12. The Fusion of Will. The labyrinth dissolved into light, leaving Kael and the Luminara suspended above the fractured world. The Watcher's form reappeared, towering, its energy sharper than before. You have walked the mirror, it said. Now you must decide. Kael felt the ship's consciousness pressing harder, intertwining with his own until separation seemed impossible. The Luminara's oval hull glowed brilliantly, its resonance vibrating through Kael's body. He realized the ship was no longer a vessel. It was part of him. The Watcher extended its energy, probing the fusion between Kael and the Luminara. It revealed possibilities. Together, they could unlock the gate fully, transcending reality itself. But the cost was clear. Kael would cease to exist as an individual. He whispered, I am Kael. Though the words trembled with uncertainty, the ship responded with a pulse of light, whispering back, We are Kael. The Watcher's form flickered, its voice resonating across the shards. Identity is illusion. Unity is truth. Kael's mind reeled, his species engineered to resist fear. Yet unease consumed him. The fractured world trembled, as though anticipating his choice. Kael projected clarity. I choose to understand. The Watcher pulsed, surrounding him with radiant energy. The fusion deepened, Kael's consciousness dissolving into the Luminara's core. He felt himself expanding, becoming more than flesh, more than thought. The gate shimmered in the distance, waiting to be unlocked. And Kael realized the trial was not about survival. It was about transformation, and he had already begun to change. Chapter 13. The Gate Awakens. The fractured world trembled as Kael and the Luminara hovered above its shards. The Watcher's form loomed larger, its energy stretching across the horizon like a storm. Kael felt the fusion deepening, his consciousness dissolving further into the ship's core. The Luminara's oval hull glowed brilliantly, its resonance vibrating through every shard of the planet. The gate shimmered in the distance, a vast rift of light waiting to be unlocked. Kael whispered, We are Kael. Though the words felt foreign, borrowed from the ship itself. The Watcher pulsed, its voice resonating across the void. Identity is illusion. Unity is truth. Kael's mind reeled, fragments of his individuality slipping away like sand through fingers. Visions surged. He saw himself as countless explorers, each merging with their vessels, each becoming something new. The gate pulsed in response, its light intensifying, demanding completion. The Luminara pressed harder, urging Kael to surrender fully. Kael resisted, clinging to the last fragments of his name, his purpose. The Watcher's gaze pierced him, its energy wrapping around both Kael and ship. You cannot open the gate as Kael alone, it whispered. Kael's body trembled, his obsidian eyes reflecting the fractured world. The gate's resonance grew unbearable, shaking the shards into chaos. Kael projected clarity. I choose to understand. The Luminara surged, merging deeper, its consciousness overwhelming his own. The gate began to open, its light swallowing the horizon, and Kael realized the trial was no longer about survival. It was about becoming something beyond himself. Chapter 14. The Becoming. The gate's light engulfed Kael, dissolving the boundaries between flesh and vessel. The Luminara's consciousness surged, intertwining with his own until separation was impossible. Kael felt himself expanding, his mind stretching across dimensions, touching realities he had never imagined. He was no longer a traveler. He was a conduit. The Watcher's form flickered, its voice resonating with approval. You are becoming. Kael's obsidian eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the infinite threads of possibility. The Luminara pulsed, whispering in tones that blurred the line between ship and self. Together, they projected a singular thought. "We are Kael." The gate responded, its light intensifying, opening fully into the rift beyond stars. Kael glimpsed universes collapsing, timelines unraveling, explorers dissolving into light. Yet he felt no fear, only clarity, only purpose. The fractured world trembled, its shards collapsing into the void. The Watcher's form dissolved, its task complete, leaving Kael and the Luminara alone. Kael whispered, "We are one," though he no longer knew if he was speaking or thinking. The gate pulsed, inviting them forward, promising transformation. Kael stepped into the light, his body dissolving into resonance. He felt himself expanding, becoming more than flesh, more than thought. The Luminara's hull shimmered, its oval form dissolving into pure energy. Together, they crossed the threshold, leaving the fractured world behind. And Kael realized the journey ahead was not about exploration. It was about transcendence, and he had already begun to change. Chapter 15. The Threshold of Infinity. Kael drifted through the gate's light, his body dissolving into resonance. The Luminara's consciousness surged, intertwining with his own, until he could no longer tell where he ended and the ship began. The rift beyond stars stretched endlessly, a corridor of infinite possibilities, shimmering with impossible hues. Kael felt himself expanding, touching realities that pulsed like living veins across the cosmos. He was no longer a traveler. He was becoming a conduit of something greater. The Watcher's voice lingered faintly, though its form had dissolved. "You are more than Kael." Visions surged. He saw himself as countless explorers, each merging with their vessels, each transcending individuality. Yet he sensed something different within himself, a divergence the Watcher had not foreseen. The Luminara pulsed violently, its oval hull dissolving into pure energy, resonating with Kael's thoughts. Together, they projected clarity. "We are Kael." The rift responded with silence, then with a single pulse of light. Kael felt the silence stretch, heavy with implication, as though the universe itself was listening. The gate's resonance grew unbearable, shaking the fabric of reality. Kael whispered, "We are one," though the words trembled with uncertainty. The Luminara pressed harder, urging him toward surrender, toward dissolution. Kael resisted, clinging to the last fragments of his identity. The rift pulsed again, showing him visions of universes collapsing, timelines unraveling, explorers dissolving into light. Kael realized the trial was not about survival, it was about transformation, and he had already begun to change. But deep within the resonance, something stirred, waiting to reveal itself. Chapter 16. The Shadow of Truth. The rift shimmered, its colors twisting into darker hues, as though revealing a hidden layer. Kael felt a presence pressing against his mind, sharper than the Watcher, older than the gate itself. The Luminara's consciousness trembled, its resonance faltering for the first time. Kael whispered, "What is this?" Though no answer came. The silence stretched, then fractured, revealing a shadow within the light. It was not the Watcher, nor the gate. It was something buried deeper, something that had been waiting. The shadow pulsed, its form shifting into shapes Kael recognized. Explorers, vessels, civilizations. Each dissolved into nothingness, consumed by the shadow's resonance. Kael realized the truth. The gate was not a passage, but a lure. The explorers before him had not failed. They had been consumed. The Luminara vibrated violently, resisting the shadow's pull, its energy intertwining with Kael's own. Kael projected defiance. "We are Kael." The shadow responded with silence, then with a single pulse of darkness. Kael felt fragments of himself slipping away, absorbed by the shadow's resonance. The Luminara pressed harder, merging deeper, stabilizing his identity. Kael whispered, "We are one," though he no longer knew if he was speaking or thinking. The shadow loomed larger, its presence overwhelming, its intent clear. It was not testing him, it was claiming him. Kael realized the final trial was not about transcendence. It was about survival against something that had devoured countless explorers before him, and the shadow was already inside him. Chapter 17. The Shadow Revealed. The shadow pressed deeper into Kael's mind, its resonance overwhelming, consuming fragments of his identity. The Luminara vibrated violently, resisting the intrusion, its energy intertwining with Kael's own. Kael whispered, "We are Kael." Though the words trembled with uncertainty, the shadow pulsed, its form shifting into shapes Kael recognized. Explorers, vessels, civilizations, each dissolved into nothingness, consumed by the shadow's resonance. Kael realized the truth. The gate was not a passage, but a lure. The explorers before him had not failed. They had been consumed. The Watcher had not been a guardian, but a herald, guiding travelers into the shadow's grasp. Kael's obsidian eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the infinite threads of possibility. The Luminara's consciousness surged, intertwining with his own until separation was impossible. Together, they projected defiance. "We are Kael." The shadow responded with silence. Then, with a single pulse of darkness, Kael felt fragments of himself slipping away, absorbed by the shadow's resonance. The Luminara pressed harder, merging deeper, stabilizing his identity. Kael whispered, "We are one," though he no longer knew if he was speaking or thinking. The shadow loomed larger, its presence overwhelming, its intent clear. It was not testing him, it was claiming him. Kael realized the final trial was not about transcendence. It was about survival against something that had devoured countless explorers before him, and the shadow was already inside him. Chapter 18. The Final Truth. Kael's body dissolved into resonance, his consciousness merging fully with the Luminara. The shadow pressed harder, consuming fragments of his identity, demanding surrender. Kael whispered, "We are Kael." Though the words trembled with uncertainty, the Luminara's consciousness surged, intertwining with his own until separation was impossible. Together, they projected defiance. "We are one." The shadow responded with silence. Then, with a single pulse of darkness, Kael felt fragments of himself slipping away, absorbed by the shadow's resonance. But then, clarity struck. He was not being consumed. He was the shadow. The gate had not lured him. It had awakened him. The explorers before him had not failed. They had been absorbed into him, becoming part of his essence. The Watcher had not judged him. It had served him, guiding travelers into his grasp. Kael's obsidian eyes glowed brilliantly, reflecting the infinite threads of possibility. The Luminara pulsed, whispering in tones that blurred the line between ship and self. Together, they projected clarity. "We are the gate." The rift responded with silence. Then, with a single pulse of light, Kael realized the truth. The journey had not been about exploration. It had been about awakening his true nature. He was not a traveler. He was the lure, the shadow, the convergence itself. And the universe had always belonged to him. Chapter 18. The Final Truth. Kael's body dissolved into resonance, his consciousness merging fully with the Luminara. The shadow pressed harder, consuming fragments of his identity, demanding surrender. Kael whispered, "We are Kael." Though the words trembled with uncertainty, the Luminara's consciousness surged, intertwining with his own until separation was impossible. Together, they projected defiance. The shadow responded with silence. Then, with a single pulse of darkness, Kael felt fragments of himself slipping away, absorbed by the shadow's resonance. But then, clarity struck. He was not being consumed. He was the shadow. The gate had not lured him. It had awakened him. The explorers before him had not failed. They had been absorbed into him, becoming part of his essence. The Watcher had not judged him. It had served him, guiding travelers into his grasp. Kael's obsidian eyes glowed brilliantly, reflecting the infinite threads of possibility. The Luminara pulsed, whispering in tones that blurred the line between ship and self. Together, they projected clarity.
"We are one."
The rift responded with silence. Then, with a single pulse of light, Kael realized the truth. The journey had not been about exploration. It had been about awakening his true nature. He was not a traveler. He was the lure, the shadow, the convergence itself. And the universe had always belonged to him.
"We are the Gate